Let's get started as usual from the local scene where the Games Village for the 8th National Youth Games tagged their Asaba 2024 will open today ahead of the opening ceremony due on Wednesday at the Stephen Keshi Stadium in Asaba. Mike, the National Youth Games, of course, looks like a purview to discovering talents here in Nigeria. Gets underway officially on Wednesday at the Stephen Keshi Stadium in Asaba. It's all set from the 36 states, including Abuja.
Yeah, I think for me, if you take a look at the words of the LOC talking about the local organizing committee over the last few weeks, I think they've been doing pretty well, putting every necessary things in place to ensure that this one is become a success, more like what we saw in the last edition. I think they've actually prepared for this very one. Most of the places where some of the athletes will be camped, they've arranged for that. And in terms of security, they say they've actually put everything in place. You know, listening to the chairman, local organizing committee, talking on the media with the press a few days ago, I think if there's anything to go by what he said, I think we should be very, very assured and reassured that this one is even going to pass last edition outing. But I also want to re-emphasize on the angle of security. The last edition, so many fans out there actually complained because of security issues. You know, when they get to the stadium to watch this game, after watching the game, coming out, you just discover that there are some hoodlums, hooligans or gangsters, you know, just waiting behind to snatch their phones and some other gadgets, some other valuables belonging to them. So I think that is the area for me they need to also work on, beef up proper security so that at least any of these fans that is going to the stadium to watch some of these games, go out there, watch the game, come out peacefully without losing any of your valuables.
Talking about the National Youth Games due for 2024, it is promising to be very, very electric. We understand 5,000 athletes have been camped in different parts of Delta State.
Yes, that is the report we got, and I'll tell you, 5,000 athletes, very impressive for me. You take a look at the number of athletes that is said to take part in this year's edition. I think we can actually harness more talent, more potentials out of it, because for me, the major aim is not just about hosting the National Youth Game. It's about using it as a platform to unearth talent and properly prepare them and position them for, national competition out there to represent the country when it matters most. So for me, this should be the aim. 5,000 athletes. At the end of it all, at least if we can get about 150 or even 200 athletes, properly nurture them, allow them pass through the rank, then I think for me it will be tagged as a success. But after hosting with over 5,000 athletes taking part in it, then we don't continue to even harness some talent out of it, then the whole essence of this venture will be fruitless for me.
Talking about harnessing talents for the future, the technical committee of the National Youth Games will definitely be up to it because they need to fish out athletes that have the potentials to represent the country in the near future. While youth games gets feverish in Asaba, let's now get to cricket. And talking about cricket, this reminds me that the fast rising Nigerian player Piety Lucky was named the player of the match as Nigeria's under-19 female cricket team beat Ghana, their Ghanaian counterparts, by 178 runs in the first game of the series, the cricket over yesterday at the University of Lagos. This is getting interesting. Lucky was just 3 runs shy of a century with 97 runs from 53 balls, including 12 fouls, and of course 2 sixes. This cricket doesn't seem to be very popular, but yet the oldest sport here in Nigeria.
Yes, for me, I think for Lucky, he's a rising star out there. We've seen what he's been able to do in a couple of the games that we've seen so far. And I tell you, if we continue to keep a close eye on Lucky, this might turn out to be one of our best player in terms of cricket out there. And our dominance over Ghana in different sporting strata continues. You can't also forget the Jollof Derby. Whenever we meet each other in any sporting competition, there's always that rivalry between Nigeria and Ghana. But over time, we also continue to show our supremacy over the Ghanaians. But then, I think for cricket, just like you say, one of the oldest sports right here in the country, but relatively unknown by so many. I think we also need to do a lot in order to, stabilize or even make hockey one of the key games that whenever we go for the African Championship or all African game, we can also, use that as area of a comparative advantage. Having been the oldest, sport here in the country, we need to also maximize what comes with it. But for me, I think it's a nice one. Let's hope that they can continue to fire from all cylinders, because the under-19 championship is just very close and they need to pick the ticket for that very one.
Talking about how close the under-19 championship in cricket is, we know that for the 2025 International Cricket Council under-19 World Cup qualifiers in Rwanda is due later this month, and Nigeria and Ghana are joined by a selected Nigerian side out there to be part of this. We just hope that the cricketers, taking part in this one will just graduate from being youth cricket players. Now, let's look at the Paralympic Games that took the city of Paris to limited heights. Team Nigeria's 7-medal haul at the Paris Games looks like one of the lowest in recent time in Paralympic Games, Mike.
Yeah, one of the lowest per se, despite parading, a lot of para-athletes compared to last or previous editions that we've attended. The first edition, 1992, where we actually took part in the maiden edition, I think we went there with about 6 para-athletes, but then we were able to at least win some, impressive medals out there, which include 4 gold medals. A total of 8 medals in our first outing with limited number of para-athletes. This year's edition, I think we started on a very, very shaky note, for me, but then I think we were able to finish very hard with 7 medals in all, but then it's still 4 short below expectation, because don't also forget that the para-athletes of Nigeria, they've been also doing the country proud. Whenever they go out there to represent us, be rest assured that at least they are going to amass medals for us. Last edition, we won a total of 10 medals, and this year's edition, 7 medals. I think this is the lowest of Nigerian para-athlete delivering on the big stage out there. But then, I think it's better than not, coming home with anything, just like their everybody counterpart did in the just concluded Paris Olympic game.
The Para Games, Nigeria returning in the 40th position. Over 200 countries took part in this one. 7 gold, 7 medal haul, 3 was in the color of gold, and we had 2 gold, 3 silver, and 2 bronze medal, finishing number 40 in the world. And because something happened, Bolashade Olufofayimeo actually broke a world record in the women's 86 kg para powerlifting, becoming the very first para-athlete here in Nigeria, in the history of Nigeria, to lift 166 kg and winning a gold medal in the process. This is not just a Nigerian record, it's a world record.
Yeah, world record. I mean, it's just more like a replica of what she did. She put up last time at Oluwafemi. You're very impressive. I actually take time to watch that everyone. You listen to her, raw out there even before she get to lift that very one. The fans were cheering, and she went out there and did her thing in an impressive man. I tell you, it was a beauty to behold for me. I think this one will stick in the heart of Nigeria for a quite long time, despite the fact that we couldn't meet up with the maybe more medals like to compare to last edition outing. But then I think this record breaking from Oluwafemi Ayo is something that is going to stand for a very long time, because I tell you, from all indication, according to the interview after that game, she was able to put up an impressive. So she said that she hoped to maintain on that world record and even keep on going. So for me, I think it's a positive one for us going forward.
Positive one for Nigeria going forward, and I was impressed. There was a bronze medal in javelin at the event as well.
Yeah, javelin, another area where you, over the years, in terms of Paralympic, activity, Nigeria have never, shown strength in the area of javelin. But then this time around, I think they were able to gain something very impressive. Let's hope we can build on this as well going forward.
Let's hope we can build on our performances at the Paralympic Games. You remember, a whooping $15,000 was made available for a gold medal, and $10,000 for silver, and $5,000 for bronze medal. And let's hope that these athletes will continue to take advantage of the level of motivation from the Federal Ministry of Sports recently. You remember, it's always been in favor of the able-bodied athletes, but this time around the Paralympians seem to have gotten more than we saw of their able-bodied counterparts.
True, and for me, very necessary. I think they hearken to the outcry of so many, Nigerian sport followers out there, because over the years, just like you said, the level of reward and treatment against the Paralympians is nothing to write home about compared to what their everybody counterpart always receive out there. Just this year, their everybody counterpart was promised the sum of $5,000 for gold medal, $3,000 for silver, and $2,000 for bronze. Then, after they went out there, put up a disappointing outing, want to forget, in the history of Nigerian Olympic, attendance, there were so many outcry coming from different concerned Nigerians regarding the para-athletes and their welfare. And I think that is the reason why the Ministry of Sport actually listened to that outcry, thereby putting up that incentive, financial incentive for the para athletes, for $15,000 for gold medal, $10,000 for silver, and $5,000 for bronze. So for me, I think they are beginning to have a change of mind, a change of narrative, which for me I think is very, very necessary, because if you take a look at what the para athletes have brought to the country, to the nation over the years, I think they've been very, very impressive. Amassing a total of 80 medals before this year's Paralympic Games. Out of the time that have actually attended the Paralympic, contrary to that of their everybody counterpart who only got 27 medals in all. So for me, I think they need to be adequately rewarded for their hard-earned effort out there, which for me, I think is going to be a morale booster going forward. If we are going not to see this kind of massive reward from the para-athlete, I think it will also encourage them to do more in the future.
Well, let's hope that they will do more in the future. But the Olympic Games, after 11 days of hostilities, has come to an end in Paris. And what a wonderful host, I want to say, from what we saw of the able-bodied, athletes games, and now the Paralympians. It's been very, very colorful at the French capital, Paris.
Very, very colorful, I may want to say, and I think for me, the local organizing committee did a lot in order to put this one, to make this one happen. They've actually set a standard. For me, in next edition, they will also even further look up to beat this very mark that the French authority have also set for themselves. I tell you, the closing ceremony was even more flashy, more colorful, and for me, all the complete showcase of their cultural display, folklore, and all of that. So for me, very, very impressive. Despite the security threats, even before the Paris Olympic Game and the Paralympic, they were able to stand strong, to hold their own ground, and were able to pull up, very good organizational, facilities out there. Top notch, you may want to say. Despite the rain, in the closing ceremony, fans still turn out in their numbers to make that one a very colorful one. And I tell you, it is a standard that the French authority have also set going for the next edition.
5,000 athletes from over nearly 200 countries taking part in that one. And like we mentioned to you, Nigeria ended up in the 40th position of the 168 delegation that took part of the Paralympic Games. And we hope that these ladies and men who represented Nigeria on their return will be given proper reward. Yes, there has been the 15,000, but you want to think that the delegation should be accorded some respect.
True, they should, because they did a lot. Without their effort, I think we wouldn't have even finished 40th among 160-something countries that attended this very one. So I tell you, the reward system is something that you cannot, downplay. It's important. It goes a whole long way to encourage, the people out there to even do better. So without any iota of doubt, for me, I think it would be very necessary for them to be properly rewarded, despite the $15,000 given. What about those who couldn't win anything? Does it mean that they are not going to at least get something for going to represent the country? No. So for me, I think they truly deserve more reward as they come back home.
Well, talking about the latest happening around the world of sports on the program Sports Talk, let's look at tennis. Mike, the last Grand Slam of the year, which is the US Open, has come and gone. And interestingly, first, let's look at what happened in the male category last night. Yannick Sinner from Italy was in action against Los Fries, what can be described as homeboy at the U.S. Open out there in Flushing Meadows in New York. And after hostilities, in straight sets, the man from Italy, let's say, held off and won 6-3, 6-4, 7-5 over the American. This cannot be any better than you expect for Jannik Sinner, the man who, just before this U.S. Open, was immersed in controversy about drug issues. And he carried on, and now he's won his second Grand Slam for the year 2024.
Yeah, for me, I think truly deserving, and he needed to win this very one to also close in or continue to maintain the #1 ranking. Don't forget, just like you said earlier, despite the whole issue of him failing twice doping tests, which actually led to some points deducted from him and also imposed some financial imposition out there because of that. Despite the criticism from so many ex-players as well, that it looked as though there was a double standing from the tennis organizers out there. Why, after twice testing positive for a banned substance, he was still allowed to take part and continue to compete. So many criticism out there, but then going into this one with a whole lot of criticism, just 19 days after that doping issue, he still was able to maintain his cool, and went to the final, not just going to the final, but winning this very one, despite the distraction and all of that. I think for me, we must give it to Jannik Sinner. Very impressive. 2 Grand Slam for the season, which I think the last time we saw a player did this was in 1977, and he now follows the record of Velas, which for me I think was very, very impressive for Jannik Sinner. I tell you, despite the home crowd of Taylor Fritz, because as a homeboy playing at home, you expect all the fans to be on his side, but then he never gave a damn to such a distraction, despite the crowd, roaring, cheering at every, ball kicked by Taylor Fritz, but then he was still able to maintain his cool and win this very one. I say big congratulations to Jannik Sinner.
Jannik Sinner, the very first Italian man to win singles at Flushing Meadows at the U.S. Open, so to say. Yes, we know that we've had a woman win before from Italy, but we've never seen an Italian man win at Flushing Meadows, which is the U.S. Open. And America, Taylor Fritz, they've never won the U.S. Open in the last 21 years or so. No American man has won the U.S. Open. I think Roddick was the last to win there. What is going on? This is their, in terms of not just winning, this is like 15 years now we even saw an American in the final. Of the U.S. Open. Can America get it right again at the last Grand Slam of the year?
I think for me, it's going to be a very, very big question and a very big worry for them out there. Despite hosting at home ground where you expected them to make this one count, they couldn't. This is 21 years down the line after Roddick, who was actually on the stand as well, to support their own, talking about Taylor Fritz. Yet his presence and support count for nothing, as Jannik Sinner had a beta. But like I said earlier, it's going to take them a very long time, because if you are hosting and the fans are on your side, you couldn't make it count. What about going for away games where it will be hosted somewhere? I think for me it's a very, very difficult one. Both in the male and the female category, they've actually struggled, talking about the American. But I tell you, if they get it right, maybe, just maybe in the near future, we might see them make headway. Just like you said earlier, 15 years they've not gotten to the final, making it through this time around. Everybody expected it, and that is why they had a whole lot of home support if you actually followed the U.S. Open keenly. But then those home support count for nothing. So it's a big worry for them. They need to also improve and see what they can do if they truly want to get back to reckoning.
They had the fans out there in Flushing Meadows in numbers were clearly disappointed, because they had 2 of their own in the final. And in the male category, they had of course, had there another Taylor Fritz, an exciting player, but he couldn't take his game beyond the final there. And in the female category, earlier on Saturday, we saw Aryna Sabalenka defeat another home girl, this time around Jessica Pegula, out there at the U.S. Open. This is very disappointing for the fans because at least they thought one of them could at least bring them glory, like we mentioned to you, after several years. But it wasn't to happen because Aryna Sabalenka, the Belarusian lady, beat the American Jessica Pegula 7-5, 7-5. That's straight set win at Flushing Meadows out there in New York. Aryna Sabalenka, she was in the final last year. She came back this year and now got to the trophy herself.
Truly deserving. If you go through the record since 2021, I think Aryna Sabalenka has been doing her best to ensure. Even 2024, where she lost, you saw how she wept profusely, showing her disappointment out there. 2023 as well, she also did the same, But then this time around, she actually made it count. For Aryna Sabalenka, world number 2 great player any day, any time, and against Jessica Pegula, a home girl, many actually expected Jessica Pegula to give Aryna Sabalenka a run for her money because of the home crowd and all of that, but then it wasn't to be. I tell you, Aryna Sabalenka have actually proven that indeed she's one of the WTA players to be reckoned with over the years. I mean, her name rings bell. It's just that since the start of this season, she hasn't won any major trophy. And that is why her fans began to, lose faith. But I tell you, courtesy of this impressive display, that confidence is back for Aryna Sabalenka going forward. With the point that she has amassed, I tell you, it may also keep her afloat in the world number 2 for a very long time. Because the point, not just the money that they are fighting for, but the point, for me, very, very important to keep you in a very, very remarkable or a very enviable position in the world ranking out there. It's a big display for Aryna Sabalenka, and it's another big worry for the Americans to also, deal with.
Well, really, really interesting 2024 U.S. Open. We had 2 Americans in the final. They lost, and that looks very disturbing for the Americans, but we hope that they can get back. But something interesting for Mike that struck me this year's U.S. Open. We had an Australian winner in the male category in you can say it in this year's Australian winner Open, winning again at the U.S. Open. As if that was not enough, in the female category, Aryna Sabalenka won as well at the Australian Open this year, and now she's gotten a second Grand Slam at the U.S. Open. So both winners were winners at the Australian Open, and now they come back to win the last Grand Slam. They won the very first of this year, and they've ended the year with another victory in the same. And I can't remember a very long time we had double winners, in same male and female at the U.S. and the Australian Open.
I think it's been a very, very long time. I tried to go through my record.
Well, like 15 years ago or so?
Yeah. I tried to go through my record. He was telling me it's about 14 to 15 years back that we also saw such feat. And I tell you, more like a coincidental for me, But then I think this is what you get when you truly know where you are heading to. You start the season on a very, very strong note and also finish very, very strong at the last Grand Slam of the year. It's a big, big, feat for both Jannik Sinner and Aryna Sabalenka. We hope to see them to continue to dominate for a very long time, because I tell you, it is a beauty to behold, noting that, you started the season very well and also finished on a very high note as well. Very impressive one. Let's hope that they continue to fire from all cylinders, for me. But I tell you, it is a big record that they've actually broken, and it will take very long time for other tennis players to also, achieve this feat as well.
The U.S. Open has come and gone, and of course, last Grand Slam of the year, a lot of bank balance credit this hour for the both winners out there. Over $1 million US.
Very impressive. We talked about this on our sister station yesterday, on Saturday, precisely about the financial reward that come with this very one. I tell you, it's very, very huge. And I tell you, the organizers, this year's edition, both in the male and female categories, about 7.5% increment of the last edition, which for me is very, very massive. The U.S. Open is one of the biggest, cash prize that goes out in
the highest right now.
Yes, as it is. So for me, it is not surprising. And the next edition, we're even hoping from what we are hearing that they're going to up the, prize money as well. But very, very good reward system for the players out there.
If you're a tennis player, and of course you need to partake, look for how you can be part of the U.S. Open, because that's where there's more reward in terms of cash prize. A lot of money involved in this one. Time for us now to take a break. While we short for a break, we'll look at latest happening from the world of boxing and go to football as well, where, of course, you know, at the weekend, the Super Eagles were in a very, do I say, goal scoring form. It scored 3 passes, their counterparts from Benin. And Guerrero definitely believes that, yes, Nigeria have better players than